In a hardcore Nuzlocke, if a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead. The level cap is the next leader's ace, no active items can be used in battle, and we play the games on set mode. And a Genlock is where we take those rules and stretch them across the entire Pokemon franchise. Your surviving championship team members come over to the new game with a bunch of perks. Deaths and duplicates follow you cross-generation, and a wipe means restarting the entire challenge all over again. Last video, we had a flawless Kanto run in Pokemon Fire Red, and now we're heading over to Johto in Pokemon Heart Gold. So if you liked the video, the sound of my voice, and this isn't your first time here, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you could give that little thumb a tickle and maybe leave a comment, that'd be super cool as well. And if this isn't your first time here and you're pretty sure you are subscribed, you should double check. Over 80% of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed. If you have any questions or concerns about how exactly a Genlock works, you can find out all the rules in the description down below. And if you didn't check out the Fire Red video for part 1, you should probably do that. But spoiler alert, we won. But anywho, let's kick things off in Johto. What I think is absolutely hilarious is when you put this game through the randomizer, which I do so that way I can naturally get every evolution, it randomizes Lyra's Pokemon, so there goes her Cubone. And stepping inside of Professor Elm's lab, it's going to be time for us to choose our second starter Pokemon. So just like we did in Kanto, I'm going to decide which starter we're going to take based off of a dice roll. So rolling a 1 through 6 nets us a Chikorita, a 7 through 12 gets us Totodile, and 13 through 18 gets us Cyndaquil. And we're going to roll ourselves an 8, which gives us Totodile. So welcome to the team, Koopa. But little Koopa's not going to be with us for too long because after we get our Pokedex, it's going to be time for our old team to make their reappearance. And after receiving our Totodile, Professor Elm asks us to go meet up with somebody named Mr. Pokemon, which is 100% a fake name because he has something cool that he wants to show to Professor Elm. And after going to his refrigerator, he simply takes out an egg, handing it to us, saying that it's a mystery egg. But I'm not really sure if I believe him. But anywho, I guess I've been hired to take this back to Professor Elm, and in return he gave me a Pokemon, so I guess that's pretty good. And after taking a quick nap, walking the slowest I've ever seen anybody walk, enter Professor Samuel Oak, who has retired from being a professional Pokemon professor and has decided to become a professional Pokemon podcaster. He works over at the Goldenrod Radio Tower, hosting the Oakcast, a podcast about all things Pokemon. And after asking us if we would like to join his Patreon, I feel a little pressure to do so after he hands us a Pokedex. So I guess we've now subscribed to the Oakcast over on Patreon. Also make sure you check out our YouTube channel. Becoming a member gets you the episodes 3 hours early. But after this incredibly awkward exchange and receiving Professor Oak's phone number, it's time for us to head back to Professor Elm, who apparently's been robbed. And while rushing our way back over to Professor Elm, we run into this random passerby boy, who calls us a wuss because we took the Pokemon he wanted. Wait, hold on, are you the thief? So this random kid sends in a Chikorita and we send in Koopa. And we're gonna go for a scratch, doing about a third as a tackle from this thing does barely anything. And after it growls at us, we're gonna scratch it again as it growls just one more time before we take it out, defeating Passerby Boy. And that's when he drops his driver's license on the ground, so now we know his name. And I'm gonna go tell the cops. And once we get back to Professor Elm's lab, this random police officer says we must be the culprit because we returned to a crime scene. But I'm pretty sure this is my first time here since the crime occurred, so it couldn't possibly be me. And after Lyra screams at this dude, he says, okay, cool, you're probably not it, but who was it? And just like how every blue is Rando, every silver is Geo Jr. And once the police officer realizes that it's the son of the renowned Giovanni, he decides to just leave. But that's when Professor Elm notices we've been given a Pokedex, which means we've met Professor Oak and subscribed to his Patreon for only $5 a month. He can't believe the value. He's been trying to get a Pokedex for years. And this is when he lets us know that we should go on the gym challenge, because we already have a Pokedex, so we might as well leave home forever. And this is another one of my favorite things about Lyra having a random Pokemon. There was one time that she had an Exeggutor and it used Egg Bomb on the random Pokemon, scored a crit, and OHKO'd it. So let's see if she does that here with Cubone. So when Lyra encounters this Rattata and throws her Cubone in, all it's gonna do is growl at it, doing a significant amount of damage. Enough in fact that she'll be able to throw a Pokeball at it, capturing it in no time flat. And it's as easy as that. So after receiving our Pokeballs, it's going to be time for us to reestablish our original team. So my goal here in Johto is to hopefully just use our team from Kanto without having to capture any new Pokemon. So let's see how we do there. So if you check the rules in the description down below, by being the champions in one game, we get to choose our nature as well as one egg move. So all of the IVs are exactly the same as they were in Fire Red, which you can also see what those are down in the description below as well. But for Yoshi Jr., we chose Ancient Power as our egg move. For Kirby Jr., I just decided to make it a Snorlax right away as opposed to making it a Munchlax because let's be honest everybody, I was just going to run around in circles until it evolved anyways. So we got Zen Headbutt. Thwomp Jr.'s got Rock Slide. Rob 2.0 doesn't have any egg moves because it's a robot. Olar Jr. took Synthesis, and Duck Jr. took Psychic. And while these moves seem super powerful, they are. The entire point is that I'm going to try to be getting through as many games as possible with these Pokemon. And as they gain more power and more abilities, it's going to be a much bigger deal if I lose them. So let's see if we can make our way through Johto with these same 6 Pokemon. And now it's time to take on Falkner and his magnificent birds. Falkner starts off with Pidgey and we send in Rob. We're going to outspeed with Rob 2.0 and go for a Thundershock on this tiny bird, picking up the KO. Next down is going to come his ace, Pidgeotto. Who's going to outspeed us on the first turn, going for a tackle, which is going to do effectively nothing to us. And this is when Rob is going to unleash the power of Thundershock, doing about 80%, which is a little unfortunate because that does mean that the Pidgeotto is going to get to use Roost instead. And after it heals all the way up, basically we're going to go for another Thundershock, but because it lost its flying typing, he's going to go ahead and not go down to it. But we're going to keep on doing what we do while he runs through all of these roosts until eventually he's either going to stop roosting or run out of PP here. And he's going to keep on getting back up to full, and at this point, Falkner, there's just something going on with you. And now that we have managed to paralyze it, we can finally outspeed, go for one more Thundershock, taking down Pidgeotto, defeating Falkner, and earning our Zephyr badge. After making our way to Azalea Town, we find this old man arguing with this random Team Rocket grunt. But the old man insists that Team Rocket hasn't existed for several years, and that's when he punches this guy in the face and he runs away. And nobody's getting down into that well. Also, where is the well? Oh, there it is. That was weird. And after we go see this old man named Kurt who loves to play with balls, we let him know about the random Team Rocket grunt who was over by Slowpoke Well. But Slowpoke Well is where he sources the best balls to make his balls and runs off after Team Rocket. And after falling down Slowpoke Well directly onto his balls, he asks if we, a small child, can take care of Team Rocket instead. And after beating up a bunch of Team Rocket grunts, Yoshi is going to evolve into Charmeleon. And after beating up all the other Rocket grunts, we find this guy who says he's the cruelest guy in Team Rocket. And I hope he meant coolest guy. Anywho, let's face off against Proton. He starts off with sending in a Zubat, and we send in Duck. Duck Jr. is then going to go for a Psychic, annihilating this Zubat in just one shot, which is going to lead into his next Pokemon, Coughing. And once Duck unleashes his wild Psychic powers one more time, we can take down the Coughing, defeating Proton and expelling Team Rocket from this random town. And after defeating Team Rocket and saving Azalea Town, Kurt gives us this Rob Thomas album. And I always forget about this rival battle. I am not ready to take on Geo Jr., but he interrupted me before I could make any funny jokes. Alright, so Ghastly's gonna come in first, I guess, and we're gonna send in Duck Jr. It's gonna go for a Spite, but it's faster than me, so I haven't done anything yet, so Duck Jr. is going to fire off a Psychic and take out the Ghastly in one. Next up is gonna come his Bayleaf, and this is gonna be potentially a problem. Oh wait, no it's not, because I've got a Yoshi. So once we send in our Yoshi, the Bayleaf goes for a Razor Leaf, but fortunately misses. And from here, we can go for a super effective Ember, doing a lot less than I thought we would, as the Bayleaf then goes for a Poison Powder. But since Charmander learns Dragon Rage on level 15 in this game, we can go for a Dragon Rage on the following round, taking out the Bayleaf. His final Pokemon, a Zubat, comes in next. And we can go for another Dragon Rage on the Zubat, and I don't know if it has less than 40 HP, but I assume it does, as the Zubat then goes down, and we defeat Geo Jr. And now it's time for us to take on Bugsy and his creepy crawlers. Bugsy starts off by sending in his Scyther, and we're going to send in Yoshi. It's going to go for a quick attack on the first turn, doing about a third to us, and we're going to go for an Ember, and we do barely anything. Oh my god. So from here, the Scyther's going to go for another quick attack, getting me down to just 19 HP, and I'm going to throw some rocks at it because it's quad effective, and we're going to take down the Scyther. Now from here, all he has left is his Metapod and his Kakuna, so we should be able to take care of both of them in one shot apiece as we score a crit on the Metapod, and once Kakuna comes in, we can go ahead using Ancient Power again, taking it out and getting the Omni Boost no less. And with that, we've received our Hive Badge. While making our way towards Goldenrod City, we're gonna run into Lyra, who wants to go say hi to her grandpa, who it turns out is the daycare man. And after introducing us to her grandfather, and once we go inside to meet Lyra's grandmother, she naturally assumes that I'm her boyfriend, because who wouldn't want to date me? And I don't know if there's something here in the air at the daycare center, but she mutters out that we're actually fiancés? Excuse us, we're getting married? And that's when Lyra realizes she never gave me her phone number. So now we can meet up for a proper date, because now we're stuck in this engagement together. And I guess it could be worse. And now it's time for us to take on Whitney and her cute little normie guys. Whitney starts off with Clefairy, and we're going to send in Thwomp Jr. The Clefairy is going to try to go for a Mimic, and we're going to go for a Rock Polish on the first turn to increase our speed. And now that we can outspeed, I go for a Rock Slide, but unfortunately we miss as the Clefairy goes for a Mimic and tries to Rock Slide us. But since it mimicked, it still missed, and then we miss again as the Clefairy then hits us with a Rock Slide, doing barely anything. But finally, on the third round, we do manage to connect with this bunch of rocks, taking the Clefairy down pretty low, as it then goes for another Rock Slide. Then from here, we're going to throw but a single mighty rock at the Clefairy, taking it down. This is going to lead out into her ace, Miltank. And even with the one Rock Polish, we still don't outspeed, and I guess I should have gone for a second one, so let's try to do that, as the Miltank goes for a second stomp. And I unfortunately flinch on this one again. And after getting flinched 3 times, we finally get a Rock Polish off. And I know I can tank at least one more hit, so we're going to go for a Magnitude, getting an 8, doing a lot less than I expected, as a Stomp comes in, getting us down to 9 HP. So I guess it's time to swap out into the big guns, sending in the mighty Kirby Jr. Miltank is then going to go for a Milk Drink because it might as well, I guess. And it's going to outspeed, going for a Stomp on us, doing a lot more than I expected if I'm being completely honest, and then it's going to go for another Stomp as we continue flinching. And then we miss our Zen Headbutt? Are you kidding me? And we only do a quarter. So I guess we'll swap out into Rob as it goes for another Stomp. And then we're going to hit it with a Metal Sound, so now hopefully when we go for a Thunderbolt, we can take it down in just one shot, and we do, and we take down Whitney, but that could have been scary. After reaching Ecruteak City, we run into this very handsome man over at the Pokemon Center, and he's giving off some sort of weird pheromone similar to Whitney's Clefairy. Is it possible that this man has cute charm? He introduces himself as Bill, the creator of the PC system. And he lets us know that he's here visiting his family over in Goldenrod City, but he just wanted to give a quick upgrade to the computers around Johto. Then he gives us a little wink and heads it back home. And before facing off against Geo Jr., Olimar's going to evolve into a Gloom. Inside of the burnt tower with a bunch of neat-looking dogs that could possibly be cats, we find this eccentric magician-looking man who introduces himself as Eunice. And he seems oddly obsessed with the potential panther known as Suicune. He so desperately wants to touch its smooth skin or fur, ride upon its majestic back, become one with the Suicune. So I decide maybe I'll go touch it, but then that's when we run into Geo Jr., who says it's dumb to try to pet dogs because he's a big jerk. So I guess it's going to be time for us to battle him, because who wouldn't want to pet a dog, you silly goose? Geo sends in Ghastly, and we're going to send in Duck. It's going to outspeed us on the first turn, going for a curse, doing half the work for us, and then we finish it off with a psychic. But I guess the unfortunate thing about putting the curse on us is that Duck's not going to be able to OHKO each and every one of Geo's members, which means even though when he sends in Bayleaf and I could totally take care of Bayleaf, like totally no problem, I'm going to swap out anyways, this time sending in Yoshi as it sets up a Reflect. Then we're going to go for a Flamethrower with Yoshi and score a massive hit, KOing the Bayleaf immediately. Next up is going to come his Zubat, and we're going to go for a Flamethrower, again scoring a massive hit and grabbing the OHKO on the Zubat. His final Pokemon, Magnemite, then comes in, and what can I say about a Magnemite that you light on fire? That it goes down. And with that, we've defeated Geo Jr. yet again. Now let's go pet those 3 cat dogs. But as we approach the 3 legendary dog, cat, beast things, the 3 of them decide to just run off instead of hanging out with me. But not before Eunice's boyfriend greets us. And after once again failing to pet this majestic doggo, Eunice leaves in shame. Why can't I pet this majestic creature? And before facing off against Morty, Thwomp is going to evolve into a Graveler. Oh jeez, oh god, we got Graveler now, guys! I promise I normally do a better impression than that. And now it's time for us to take on Morty and his ghastly, ghoulish team. His first ghastly ghoul is a Ghastly, and we're going to send in Duck Jr. On the first turn, this Ghastly goes for a Lick, and we go for a Psychic, quickly picking up the KO. Up next is going to come his Gengar, which I feel like is going a little hard right away. But anyways, this Gengar is going to reel itself back and launch off a Shadow Ball, and it absolutely annihilates Duck. No! I genuinely didn't think we were going to lose any Pokemon until the Kimono Girl, so losing Duck this early absolutely breaks my heart. And as we go ahead and send in Kirby instead, it goes for a mean look, locking us in with it. But guess what, Gengar? You're trapped in here with me. As we knock it down, way into the red, it's going to heal up with its Citrus Berry. After that, the Gengar is going to go for a Hypnosis, which is incredibly frustrating, but I also think it's because it literally can't hit me unless it goes for a Sucker Punch. But after we wake up, we go for another Zen Headbutt, taking the Gengar. Next up is going to come Morty's first Haunter, and it's going to go for a Curse, cutting its own HP down to try to do a little bit to us as we miss our Zen Headbutt. And on the following turn, it's going to put us to sleep with a Hypnosis, and once we take even more Curse damage, we're going to need to swap. So we do, and we're going to send Yoshi in instead as it tries to go for a Dream Eater. But once we can fire off a Flamethrower, we can take down the Haunter. This is going to lead into his second Haunter. And why doesn't he have a Mischievous or something like that? It's really weird. Anyways, we're going to go for another Flamethrower, taking down the second Haunter, defeating Morty. And with that, we've earned our Fog Badge, but lost our first friend. And what makes losing Duck even harder is the fact that I was really relying on it to be able to take care of Chuck for me, so we're going to need to pivot. So we're going to add Koopa into the party and evolve it right away into a Croconaw. And while working it up to the level cap to face off against Chuck, it's going to evolve into a Feraligatr. Additionally, Rob is also going to evolve into a Magneton. And now, without the use of our Psychic Duck, it's time for us to take on Chuck. Primeape comes in first and we send in Olimar. The Primeape's going to go for a double team on the first turn as I miss my Mega Drain, and then it's going to go for another double team, and fortunately this time we do connect, doing a lot less than I thought we would. Anywho, it's going to keep on stacking up Evasion, and then we're going to go for another Mega Drain, bringing it down pretty low. But fortunately not low enough that Chuck will use his potion, but then we also don't connect. But after getting Rock Slid, we can go for it one more time, picking up the KO on Primeape. This is going to lead into his ace, Poliwrath, who fortunately misses us when he goes for a Hypnosis, so we can go for a Mega Drain on the Poliwrath, doing a lot less than I thought we would. What is this Poliwrath made out of? Well, it's going to go for a Body Slam on the following turn, doing about a third to us, and we can go for a Mega Drain, doing about the third to it, getting it down pretty low. But once again, I don't think it's going to be low enough for Chuck to heal up, especially because it's holding onto a Citrus Berry. The Poliwrath is then going to go for a Surf on us, doing some chip damage, and Olimar can go for another Mega Drain, slurping up some health, scoring a crit, and taking care of the Poliwrath. And by the absolute skin of our teeth, we beat Chuck. And I say skin of our teeth because honestly, if Olimar went down, we probably would have lost. And after zipping back over to Olivine City, it's gonna be time for us to take on Jasmine and her steely team of Steel-type Pokemon. So steel yourself, Jasmine, and send in that Magnemite. But anyways, I'm gonna melt all these steel things with Flamethrower, so Magnemite goes down. After that, her Steelix is gonna come in next, probably looking to do something super impressive, but going for a critical hit on our Flamethrower, KOs it in one, leading into her second Magnemite. And with our mighty Flame Breath, once again, we can take it down, defeating Jasmine and earning our next badge. Over at the Lake of Rage, we run into this shiny Gyarados. And sending in Rob 2.0, the rain begins to fall upon us. And after throwing our Rob Thomas fastball, we're going to catch ourselves our shiny Gyarados, who we're going to nickname Ridley. And after catching the Gyarados, we find the Pokemon League champion Lance. And it turns out that he's been shiny hunting for the past 12 hours, and he wants to know who captured the shiny Gyarados. And I let him know that it was a weird guy inside of a weird house back in town, to which he says he'll be right back. And with an evil look in his eye, he leaves. And I should probably go see what's up. And when heading back into town, we find Lance, who's cornered the man he believes is the one who captured his shiny Gyarados, and he declares that his Dragonite Hyper Beam him. And after disintegrating this man, it turns out that he's actually a spy for Team Rocket, so thank goodness he was an actual bad guy. And that's when Lance kicks open this cabinet, revealing a secret base. And good thing he didn't look directly behind me. And after working our way through Team Rocket's secret base, what the heck is Geo Jr. doing here? As we continue our way through Team Rocket's secret base, we run into Geo Jr., who lets us know that while cleaning out his room, a random man busted in and hyper-beamed each and every one of his Pokemon. And he vows to take vengeance upon Lance and the rest of the Pokemon League, and then pushes us, leaving. And then that's when we find Daddy Geo. But wait, it's not the majestic Giovanni. The voice, totally wrong. It turns out that it's gonna be a guy named Gasoline. And he was doing his best Giovanni cosplay because he's hoping that if he can get good enough at it, they don't need to find the real Giovanni. He can just be the new boss. But anywho, now it's time to take on Petrol and his poison Pokemon, because he's Team Rocket. Zubat comes in first and we send in Ridley. We're then gonna go for a bite, getting this thing down super low as a wing attack does a bit of damage to us before we take out the Zubat. Next up comes Coughing. And we're going to outspeed, going for a bite, doing about 50% as the Coughing goes for an assurance, doing 7 to us, which is hilarious. But anyways, one more bite is going to bring this thing down wicked low as it goes for a second assurance. And I assure you of one thing, Coughing, you just went down. His final Pokemon, Eradicate, comes in. And Ridley's going to go for another bite, bringing it down pretty low as it fires off a Hyper Fang, doing barely anything to us. What is the defensive IVs on this Gyarados? But anywho, one more bite takes down the Eradicate and we defeat Petrol. And after chasing the Murkrow all the way to the door, it says the super magic password. But just before we can get to the heart of Team Rocket's operations, a woman named Ariana comes and interrupts the party. She plans on taking us down so we can't shut down the weird radio waves. But now enter Lance, and while his Dragonite might have run out of Hyper Beam PP by using it on literal humans, he's got plenty of other moves to use on this lady's Pokemon. They send out a Drowsy and an Arbok, and we send in Rob and Dragonite. Dragonite misses his Thunder, and I'm going to unleash a Thunderbolt all over this Arbok, who we can take down in just one shot. The Drowsy then goes for a Headbutt on Dragonite, doing a little bit of chip damage as her Murkrow comes in as her next Pokemon. The Dragonite is going to connect with his Thunder on the Murkrow, taking it down in just one shot. And after that, Rob is going to go for the Thunderbolt on the Drowsy, taking it down. This leads into Ariana's final Pokemon, Gloom, and this random Rocket Grunt's Grimer. Dragonite is then going to start going for a fly as we use Thunderbolt on the Grimer, taking it down in just one shot on a crit. The Gloom's going to try to go for an Acid, but obviously it doesn't do anything. And when the Dragonite comes back down, descending from the skies with a mighty fly, it grabs the Yoko on the Gloom, and we defeat Ariana and this random guy. But we haven't shut down Team Rocket yet. Our only choice now is to knock out every single one of these electrodes. And Lance, are you capable of doing anything without punching it? And with Team Rocket defeated and all those Electros knocked out, Lance's work is done here. And now it's time for us to take on Price and his frigid ice types. Price is going to start off by sending in a Seal who's not even an ice type, and we send in Kirby. I'm going to go for a Headbutt right away, getting this thing down pretty low as it goes for an Icy Wind, dropping our speed, but I'm pretty sure that Snorlax isn't known for being that fast. And after we go for a Body Slam, this Seal is going to go for a Rest just to taunt me before I can get it down after another couple of hits. Next up is going to come his Ace Piloswine. And I don't feel like messing around with it a whole lot as it sets up a Hail, and I'm going to go ahead by going for a Yawn. And as the Hail chips away a little bit of health, it's going to then go for a 100% hit Blizzard, but luckily I'm packing thick fat, so it does next to nothing as I somehow miss. Does this thing have Snow Cloak? Anywho, it's asleep, so I miss again. And now I'm realizing this thing must have Snow Cloak, and we're going to go for a Headbutt, scoring a crit, getting it down just below half. And as it continues to sleep the night away, we go for another Headbutt, getting it down to about a quarter as it wakes up, going for an Ice Fang, doing barely anything to us. And we can launch off one more Headbutt, taking down the Piloswine. His final Pokemon, a Dugong, comes in, and it's going to go for an Aurora Beam, doing less than 10 to us as we launch a Headbutt, getting this thing down way into the red on a crit. And now Price, backed up into a corner, is going to use a full restore on the Dugong as we do about 40%, and it goes for another Aurora Beam. And now at just 62 HP, we're going to go for another Headbutt, getting it down into the red as this thing goes for a Rest just because it apparently hates me. And as it continues to sleep and goes for a Sleep Talk, we can go for a Body Slam, bringing him down way into the red as the Sleep Talk goes for an Ice Shard, smacking us down just a little bit more before we take it down. And with that, we've earned our 7th badge. And this is when Professor lets us know that all podcast networks have been hacked by Team Rocket. Everybody's libraries have been deleted, and the only thing left is static. So we need to head to Goldenrod City to fix that. But before we do, Yoshi is finally going to evolve into a Charizard. After getting back to Goldenrod City, and they refuse to let us in even though we know the manager, we head downstairs to the underground where we convince this guy with pink hair that we belong with Team Rocket, so they give us this spiffy uniform. And just as we're about to sneak past the guard, enter Geo Jr., who recognizes us right away, because why wouldn't he? We are best friends after all. And after revealing ourselves to the Rocket Grunt when we 100% didn't have to, we now have to battle him. And with this Rocket Grunt defeated, even though it's literally his job to block the door, he leaves. After reaching the director's office, we're surprised to see that he's here in his office when everybody else has been taken hostage. But hold on a second, there's something familiar about you. The smell of gasoline. He reveals himself to be Petrol, doing another impression of a random guy, and now it's time for us to fight him. So he's going to go ahead and send in his coughing, and we send in Kirby. And going for a Headbutt, we do a lot less damage than I thought we would, but then I realized I should have gone for a Zen Headbutt because it's Psychic. And down goes the coughing. Next up, he's going to send in his big guns with the Wheezing, who's going to throw some sludge at us, fortunately not poisoning us, and we can go for a Zen Headbutt doing 50%. And with our accuracy lowered, we still break through one more time, KOing it. Now it's going to go back to just his regular, ordinary coughings, and we're going to keep on Zen Headbutting these things, OHKOing each and every single one of them, until eventually he'll have no coughings left. But not before we miss, and he gets a sludge off on me. But there we go, it's gone now. In comes in this next coughing, and we miss yet again. You'd think that maybe I'd have more of a better chance of hitting it if I just used regular Headbutt, but whatever. And now enter his last coughing. I want to know why his Wheezing isn't the last position in his party, but I guess I'm not the one who designed the game. But after getting sludged down well below half, we finally take down this final coughing, defeating Petrol. And as we continue to work our way up the Goldenrod Tower, we're going to run into Proton next, who we haven't seen since he stole a bunch of Slowpoke butts. Anyway, enter this Golbat, and we send in Kirby. It's going to go for a Confuse Ray, confusing us. And fortunately, we break through with our Zen Headbutt, scoring a massive hit and KOing it. This means that once Wheezing comes in, I'm hoping that we can just do the exact same thing here as it goes for a Sludge, but unfortunately we punch ourselves in the face. And after taking another Sludge and getting poisoned, we hit ourselves again. So we should switch. So we do, and I'm going to send in Rob, who can't get sludged because he's made of metal. And going for a Thunderbolt, we can take down the Weezing and we defeat Proton. And once we reach the top, we find Ariana. So let's fight her. Ariana's gonna send in Arbok and we send in Kirby. And after getting our attack cut, I don't know if it'll be enough to KO it in one, and after a crunch dropping our defense, I don't love where we are, but I'm pretty sure it's an Arbok, so I'm fine. And how the heck did it get 2 defense drops in a row? Anyways, the Arbok goes down after 2 hits, leading into her Murkrow. So I'm gonna swap out, sending in Rob as it goes for a wing attack. After that, it's gonna go for a Nightshade, doing what Nightshade do, and we go for a Thunderbolt, quickly grabbing the KO. Her final Pokemon comes in, which is a Vileplume. And I'm going to go for a Thunder Wave because I figure I might as well, as it tries to go for a Sleep Powder. Then I'm going to throw a bunch of Magnets on it, doing barely anything before we get put to sleep. So we're going to swap out, sending in the Yosh. Unfortunately, it's paralyzed this turn. So when we outspeed on the following turn with a Flamethrower, we take down the Vileplume and we defeat Ariana. And once we reach the observation deck, we find this guy with blue hair, looking like he wishes he was Giovanni. He calls himself the Archer, and it's time for us to fight him. Archer starts off with Houndour and we send in Ridley. And we're gonna go for an Aqua Tail, picking up the KO in 1. Once his ace Houndoom comes in, I'm not sure what he was thinking sending this in, but we go for an Aqua Tail, quickly picking up the KO. When he sends in his final Pokemon, this regular ordinary Coughing, we're going to go for one final Aqua Tail, getting it down to about half. So once I'm knocked down below half, I'm switching out. So I wasn't lying when I said it was the final Aqua Tail as we swap into Yoshi, who also gets poisoned? What are the odds? Anywho, we're going to go for a Flamethrower, KOing the Coughing and defeating Archer. And with Archer defeated, he has no choice but to give up his hopes and dreams because we won Pokemon. So let's get back to the important things, our 8th and final badge. And now it's time for us to take on Clair in her Draconic Lair. In comes Gyarados and we send in Rob. Gyarados is going to go for a Dragon Rage right away, and we are going to fire off a Thunderbolt, taking it down in just 1 shot. Next up is going to come our first Dragonair, and I'm assuming it's the one with Fire Blast. So we're going to swap out, sending in Koopa as it does indeed go for that Fire Blast. From here, we outspeed, going for an Ice Fang, getting it down pretty low as it sets up a Thunder Wave. After that, it's going to fire off a Dragon Pulse, which is super annoying, but we can bite it with our Ice Fangs, taking it out. Next up comes her second Dragonair, and I know what I need to do here, and that is sacrifice Koopa for the greater good. As I stay in, taking another Dragon Pulse, and I take it down pretty low. And I have to hope I can stay up, but unfortunately, I'm paralyzed. But I also know that against Clair, I can't afford a bad swap, so Koopa goes down. And we're going to send in Ridley. And once we can go for an Ice Fang, we safely take the Dragonair down. And this is going to lead into her ace, Kingdra, who's going to start things off by going for a Smokescreen. But we manage to connect with our Ice Fang, doing barely anything, but we do somehow manage to get the freeze off. And now that it's frozen, I'm just going to try to go for some bites on this, so hopefully I can get some damage in here with bites, higher accuracy, but I'm missing every single one of these attacks until we finally get it down below half, activating its Citrus Berry. And I don't know how long this thing is going to be frozen, but now that Clair is down below half, we can go for another bite, bringing it down to a quarter. And it has been frozen for like literally 10 turns before Clair heals up with a Hyper Potion, and I am so scared right now. How am I this lucky as it then eventually thaws, going for another Smokescreen? But we connect, getting it back down to about half. And after that, Clair is going to go for a Dragon Pulse, doing about a third. And from here, I can go for an Ice Fang, getting it down to about a third as it unleashes the power of a Hyper Beam from its little butt tail, bringing Ridley down to just 32 HP as an Ice Fang gets this thing back down into the red, but Kingdra must recharge. And since Clair can't heal, we take the Kingdra down, and we only lose one Pokemon in the process, which is insane. But Clair refuses to give us our badge until we go talk to some old guys. But after talking to these old guys for like 2 seconds, they decree that we're much cooler than Clair and she has to give us the Rising Badge. Looking to rebuild our team up a bit before facing off against the Elite Four, I'm going to head back over to Azalea Town and grab a Heracross after headbutting like a bunch of trees. And I don't know why, but this guy just looks like a Luigi to me. And before facing off against the Elite Four, we are going to add Thwop Jr. back onto the team. Welcome back. And now that we've made our way over to the Indigo Plateau, let's take one look at our Johto team before we face off against the Elite Four. First up, we have Kirby Jr. the Snorlax with Body Slam, Crunch, Zen Headbutt, and Yawn. Next up, we got Yoshi Jr. the Charizard with Flamethrower, Roost, Ancient Power, and Fly. Ridley the Gyarados with Bite, Dragon Dance, Ice Fang, and Waterfall. Rob 2.0 the Magneton with Metal Sound, Mirror Shot, Thunderbolt, and Thunder Wave. Thwomp Jr. the Golem with Double Edge, Earthquake, Rock Polish, and Stone Edge. And finally, Luigi the Heracross with Brick Break, Shadow Claw, Aerial Ace, and Swords Dance. In our first challenger for the Johto Elite Four is going to be Will in his wily Psychic Pokemon. Will starts off by sending in a Xatu when we send in Rob. It's going to outspeed, going for a Confuse Ray on the first turn, and we fortunately break through, going for a Thunderbolt, and we can quickly grab the KO on the Xatu. Next up, he's going to send in his Jinx, and I'm going to swap Rob out, sending in the Yosh as the Jinx goes for a Psychic, scoring a pretty big hit on us. We're then going to follow up with a Flamethrower, quickly grabbing ourselves the KO on Jinx. Next up is going to come his Slowbro. So we're going to swap out yet again, this time sending in Rob, assuming it's going to go for a Water Pulse, but it goes for an Amnesia. So I'm going to go for a Metal Sound, canceling out the Amnesia, as it then goes for a Curse. Which is fine with me, because now I can unleash the full potential of my Thunderbolt, getting it down in just one. Next out is going to come his Executor. And I'm going to fire off a Mirror Shot just to see how much it does, and the answer is quite a bit, and we managed to get ourselves the accuracy drop. And all it does is set up a Reflect. And he doesn't even bother healing up, so one more Mirror Shot takes down this big tree. Which means Will's going to send in his final Pokemon, another Xatu. It's going to outspeed us, going for a Psychic, doing a little bit of damage to us, but once we can fire off a mighty Thunderbolt, we can take it down in one, and with that, we're moving on. And now it's time for us to take on Koga in his Poison Pokemon. I couldn't think of a pun. Anyway, Ariados is first. Yoshi's gonna go for a Flamethrower right away, and this Poison team is more like a Bug team since 3 of his 5 Pokemon are weak to Fire. So anyways, Ariados is gonna go down first, which is gonna lead into his Fortress, which is exactly the Pokemon I would have sent up against a Fire Pokemon second as well. And with one Flamethrower, it goes down. Next up is going to come Ismuk, the Pokemon he probably should have sent in second to begin with. And we're going to go for a Flamethrower on this big ball of goo, and we're going to get it down way into the red as it goes for a Minimize. Koga is then going to use a full Restore on the Muck, healing it back up to full, and we're going to manage to hit it with another Flamethrower, getting it down into the red as it uses its Black Sludge. And we manage to connect with one more Flamethrower, taking it down. Next down is going to come his Ace Crobat, who's going to outspeed us, going for a Wing Attack, getting a little bit of a hit in, and we are going to go for another Flamethrower because we're a Charizard. And with that, the Crobat goes down. His final Pokemon, Venomoth, then comes in, and we're going to outspeed, going for a Flamethrower, taking it down, and we defeat Koga. And up comes our third Elite Four challenger, Bruno. And his Fighty Fight Boys. Hitmontop comes in first, and we send in the Yosh. My plan here is hopefully to just go for a fly on basically all of his Pokemon and take them out. And Hitmontop goes down just like that. Next up is going to come his Onix, who is not a burly fight boy, but it is a burly rock boy, and we're going to swap out sending in Ridley as it kicks up a Sandstorm. But we're going to go for a Waterfall on this burly rock boy, taking it down. Next down is going to come his Hitmonchan, and assuming a Thunder Punch, we're going to swap out, sending in Thwomp, who can obviously avoid it. On the following turn, he's going to go for an Ice Punch, doing barely anything to us because we are a Golem, and we take him down with one Earthquake. Next down is going to come his Hitmonlee, And we're going to swap out, sending in Ridley because I assume he's going to go for a high jump kick and I want to be able to resist it. But instead he goes for a swagger. On the following turn, we're confused, but we managed to break through, going for a waterfall, and at +2, this Hitmonlee stands no chance. Which means he's going to be sending in his ace, the mighty Machamp. And assuming that he's going to go for a Rock Slide, we're going to swap out, sending in Luigi since it's going to be neutral damage as opposed to super effective. And it does about a third to us. After that, we are going to go for a super effective Aerial Ace doing just about 60%, which is going to activate its Citrus Berry, and then it's going to go for a Revenge on us, but we can resist it. But even with resisting it, it still does a lot of damage. Now I'm going to swap Luigi out and then send in Ridley. I have to risk the Rock Slide because I need to get the Intimidate off on this thing because I know I'm going to need to switch around quite a bit as it decides to go for a Cross Chop, which does barely anything to us. In hoping that a Waterfall is going to be enough to take down this big burly man, we connect. And we don't take it down, but we do get the flinch. And after that, Bruno is going to go for a full restore as we fire off another Waterfall, getting it down just below half, which means with just one more Waterfall, we take down the Machamp and we defeat Bruno. And now it's time for us to take on Mama Karen and her sinister, dark Pokemon. Umbreon comes in first and we send in Luigi. On the first turn, I'm going to go for a Swords Dance to double my attack, and the Umbreon is going to go for a double team. But joke's on you, lady. I'm packing Aerial Ace. And at +2, let's see if we can take this big beefy dog down, and we don't. Okay, that's fine. So I might as well go for a second Sword Dance, getting myself up to +4, as the Umbreon then goes for a Feint Attack, doing barely anything. But once we fire off an Empower Aerial Ace, we take it down. Next down is going to come Murkrow. And going for a +4 Aerial Ace, we can take the Murkrow out in just one shot. This, of course, is going to lead into Houndoom, who outspeeds us going for a Flamethrower that we barely tank. Oh my goodness. And firing off a Brick Break, we can take this doggo down in one shot. I risked that way too early. So in next is going to come her Gengar. So we're going to swap Luigi out, sending in Ridley instead, as the Gengar decides to go for a Lick. And then it somehow manages to hit us with a Focus Blast, but even on a crit, it's not doing a whole heck of a lot to a Gyarados. And after we stack up 2 Dragon Dances, it's going to hit us with a second Focus Blast, and now our special defense is starting to drop. So at +2, we're going to go for a super effective bite and take down the Gengar. And her final Pokemon, Vileplume, comes in. And going for a +2 Ice Fang, it's more than enough, and we take down the Vileplume, which means only Lance, the Hyper Beamin' Daddy, is left. And as we enter the Champion's Chamber, we find Lance, who strikes a pose as we enter, and we can see that the inside of his cape says Hyper Beam. This man is all about the hype and the Hyper Beam. And now let's see if we can become the Pokemon League champions of our second region. Gyarados comes in first and we send in Rob. The Gyarados is going to outspeed us, going for a Waterfall, doing quite a bit of damage, and we are going to fire back with a Quad Effective Thunderbolt, taking down this big old dragon. Next up is going to come his Charizard. And assuming that it's going to go for a Fire Fang, we're going to swap out, sending in Ridley. And the Charizard does indeed go for that Fire Fang. Now's going to be our opportunity to try to set up a couple of Dragon Dances here so we can hopefully just go through the rest of Lance's team with just Ridley here, and after getting up to +3, I think we're in a decent spot where we can start attacking back. So at just 64 HP, we're going to start unleashing Ridley's Fury, and going for a Waterfall, we can take down the Charizard in one. Next up is going to come his Aerodactyl. And at +3, we outspeed this Speed Demon as well, and we can take it down in just one. And now are going to come his 3 Dragonites. And we outspeed, connecting with the Ice Fang. And we take down the first Dragonite, no problem. Next down is going to come his second Dragonite, who once again we managed to connect with that Ice Fang, taking down this big burly beast. And this is going to lead into his third and final Dragonite, the biggest and burliest of them all. and we managed to connect with a quad super effective +3 Ice Fang. And with that, we seal this Hyper Beaming man's fate, and we've become the Pokemon League champions of Johto. And that, everybody, is how I beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Heart Gold, the second step of our Genlock, a 9-part Nuzlocke series. If you liked the video and you made it this far and you haven't subscribed yet, then what are you doing? Make sure you hit that button. And if this isn't your first time watching one of my videos, you should make sure that you are subscribed. And now that we've completed the second step of our Genlock, we are going to be heading over into Pokemon Platinum in the Sinnoh region next, with our champions gaining a couple of perks. For our Pokemon that have already won a championship before, they're now going to have one IV maxed out, while our new entrants are going to gain an egg move as well as their choice of nature. But I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. I have wanted to do a Genlock for like literally years now, and when I first made the channel, that's what I was streaming. So I'm really excited to get back to it and actually do this. So if you could really show your support, I would appreciate it, because I do have a feeling that this isn't going to be as popular as my normal videos. But anywho, I'll catch you all next time. See ya!